Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Doug.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And this is Good Suffering. Class is back in session because we've got part 2 of our David Cronenberg series. Lorenzo, do you want to read off the 4 movies we'll be covering today?
Sure thing, Doug. Today we're doing Videodrome, The Dead Zone, I'm trying to get the order right, The Fly, and Dead Ringers.
Hey, you did it.
Thank you.
First time.
Yeah.
Weeks. Do we have anything to cover before we jump in? Sorry for fucking up again.
Yeah, we took a while again. But we kind of supplemented that with
a couple of bonus episodes.
2 bonus episodes where we watched The Prodigy, and we also watched Happy Death Day to You.
Yeah, those are fun. If you haven't checked those out yet, definitely go and give those a listen because they're very lighthearted, very fun.
Very lighthearted, very quick and easy. You can do them while you're washing dishes. Listen to them while you're washing dishes.
I hope people listen to this while they wash dishes.
You think it takes them like almost an hour to wash dishes?
You think this is only going to be almost an hour?
Jeez. if you're like a professional dishwasher at a restaurant, then yeah, put this on.
Yeah, pop in your AirPods.
Yeah.
And, okay, so let's just jump right in. I said we weren't going to do any horror views.
Yeah.
Formerly known as horror news.
All killer.
No filler.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that IMDb, baby?
I do.
Videodrome, 1983's Videodrome.
And I want to say something here.
Oh, boy.
Because I think it was on Happy Death Day to You, I had to do a synopsis from Letterboxd.
Yes.
And I just wanted to see how different they are from each other, from Videodrome, from IMDb and Letterboxd, and they're vastly different. I think the ones on Letterboxd might be from like the backs of, DVDs or whatever, like more professional, more literal marketing. But we're still pulling for that IMDb sponsorship, so we're gonna keep on going with them.
We love you guys.
Here's Videodrome.
This episode is sponsored by Liquid Death Mountain Water. Murder your thirst.
Your metal water.
Did you say that because it's like metal, like aesthetics, or because it's literally a metal can?
No, because it's like alkaline.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And it has like a pH level of like 7.
7.9.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good.
That's weird. Anyway, 1983 Videodrome. When he acquires a different kind of show for his station, a sleazy cable TV programmer begins to see his life and the future of media spin out of control in a terrifying new reality.
Ooh.
Really good.
That's a solid
great
one.
Synopsis. I don't know what else to add to that. That's kind of...
cool. Okay, so let's move on to Dead Zone.
Yeah. James Woods is a sleazy cable TV programmer, and sleazy is perhaps the best way to describe him. I think that's the
most of this film.
We described him that. Yeah, true. This whole movie's kind of has a whole film of nastiness,
grime.
And, yeah, just over it. It's gross.
Well, Debbie Harry plays Nikki Brand.
Nikki Brand.
It's not all about James Woods, you fucking misogynist.
I'm just talking... Oh, speaking of misogynists. Jeez, how about Max Wren in this movie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Certainly, I think I guess we should kick off and say that I at least look at this chunk of 4 films, at least most of these films, as sort of his period where he's kind of interested in abusive men. And I see those themes in basically everything but The Dead Zone. And you certainly
Absolutely.
see them here.
Yeah, so, and this was, since you're bringing it up now, I might as well say this. Before we started taping, I felt like I owed another look at the whole, Cronenberg is a misogynist, or he makes misogynistic movies. With the first 4 that we did in the previous episode, I certainly didn't think so. It seemed like all these male characters and their relationships with women were kind of just complex, for sure.
Is it maybe the loss of the female protagonist?
I think
like
that has
all
a part
of these
it
movies?
Too. I think that has a big part of it, and then not only that, but like in Videodrome specifically, these men are pretty ungrateful.
Well, sure, it's a movie that has to deal with sex and violence and the media.
Not only that, but there's just like this man has no regard for others in general, let alone women. He treats women like just like meat.
Sure.
So another source of entertainment for him. That's
right.
It. So,
That's everything for Max Ren is another form of entertainment. That seems to be the whole. That's everybody's motive in this movie. Is it's some form of entertainment, and then philosophy behind entertainment.
Yep.
Um,
So yeah, definitely these most of the movies in this series are dealing with men who are pretty toxic in one way or another.
yeah. I really hate shows like Black Mirror. I really hate a lot of sort of like commentary on like media or just like technology. But I really love this movie. I feel like David Cronenberg's the right person to do it because there is a sense of self understanding in it. Like he knows that he is also making the art that he is judging.
And it's not like the way the way that they have those memes about Black Mirror. It's like, oh, but what if YouTube could kill you?
Yeah.
Or something.
Which is essentially what Black Mirror is.
Right. Whereas here, it's like, there's not just one layer to it. There's like multiple avenues of like thought and theory on in a short span of like a 2-hour movie. Like there's just so much to go through and so much of the characters experience, so much for the audience to try to understand. It's certainly not an easy like, here, this is why TV's bad for you kind of like high ground.
It feels like every second of this film is packed with something that you can learn and you can pick up, and that helps the overall narrative and the message behind it. What's funny is Cronenberg in the commentary said, I have a quote, "I've never been interested in being prophetic." Like he was not out to make this and warn people. This is just how he saw reality at the time. He wasn't really trying to predict the future at all. And it's funny how often he predicts the future.
Right.
Even in prior films,
he's very like intuitive. It seems,
Yeah, absolutely. He has Brian Oblivion, Professor Brian Oblivion, say that people are going to one day adopt special names.
Yeah,
and we see that. We have Instagram and Twitter usernames. AIM, even prior.
Yeah. Do you still remember your like AIM?
I never had a name. No, yeah, really? I did have a name messenger. I was just talking about that yesterday. No, I don't remember the name. Probably something about Slipknot.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You like Slipknot?
I do. I really do. New tour, new album out August 9th.
We're not plugging Slipknot.
Yes, we are. But we see that especially like if you hear somebody who watches a lot of YouTube, they'll even refer to people by their channel names.
True.
PewDiePie being a big example.
True.
Anthony Fantano being called the Needle Drop. Different things like that.
Or the melon.
Yeah, the melon. Oh, my melon. My beautiful melon. We definitely see a lot more from Videodrome in today's society that was just sort of like part of the surreal fantasy of the film.
Yeah, and considering things are getting more and more immersive, like it seems like weekly. I mean, we have virtual reality stuff. Like you can put the Oculus on,
right?
Which almost looks like the same like hallucination machine thing that James Woods puts on at one point in the movie. That just looks like a clunkier, old school version of virtual reality. So and you and I have talked about this like a lot, just outside of the show, outside of the context of Cronenberg, just like how our personal feelings on how technology is influencing human nature.
Yeah, and I'm
personally
disagree.
Against it. Yeah, we do disagree quite a bit on it. But yeah, no, just to go back to say that Cronenberg's like really just, I don't know, he's onto something. Always, I feel like he's very brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the film as like a film. Let's talk about this in the context of the Cronenberg filmography, his oeuvre, if you might say. This comes about 2 years after Scanners, and it continues some of the themes, including that like opening motif, that like black screen where like the title card just hits. You know what I'm talking about? It's been in like almost every movie from like this period of Cronenberg films.
Cronenberg's,
yeah. He just does that over and over again. It continues a lot of the body horror that he really perfected in Scanners.
Yeah.
Adds
amplifies it quite a bit.
Adds more of a technological element, clearly, And also, I feel that he is also incorporating a lot of the twists and turns and sort of espionage-inspired elements that permeate Scanners.
Yeah, espionage maybe like not so much like spy, but something kind of like what's the
Two
term?
forces working against each other, sort of
Yeah.
a double. I mean, the last 10-15 minutes
Like
of the
double
film is
identity
literally
stuff.
a double agent sort of flip.
Kind of gumshoe stuff, noir like detective guy. Like this guy's just trying to solve a mystery in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like if there are any two Cronenberg films that pair the best together, it would be this and Scanners.
Really?
Those are always like my introductory films for people, besides you. But
Well, in all fairness, this was the first.
this was the first one you watched.
Yeah.
That's why you need the rewatch.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I watched this first because we originally thought we were gonna like do more or fewer episodes with like more movies at a time. I think.
I don't know. We had a lot of plans.
There was an idea at one point.
This was supposed to be done by now.
Yeah.
Like all of this Cronenberg stuff. This film also like very fearlessly approaches BDSM, sexual violence, which continues to be a theme in Cronenberg's films.
He's obsessed with it.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
obsessed with sex.
Yeah, and how the body relates to either technology or the grotesque, or he sees almost every facet of our life as linked very deeply. And he's just trying to take the ugliest of that and scrape it up and put it on screen.
That makes so much sense now. I'm having like an epiphany.
Are you really?
Yeah. Because like knowing, we're jumping ahead. At least I'm jumping ahead, but momentarily. The next episode is going to include Naked Lunch. And Naked Lunch has a quote about like what Naked Lunch is. It's like when you're staring at like the end of your fork and you see like what it is, like for what it really is, or something like to that effect. I'm paraphrasing really badly. And then that also reminded me of something of Sartre, like when he wrote Nausea and all of his stuff on existentialism, is that like when you break down things to like its barest like minimum, right, like right to its like actual quote unquote essence, it's pretty grotesque, like what bodies do like on a daily basis just as functioning. Right. Or what sex is. Like when you really think about like what the act of sex is, it's kind of gross. It's kind of like a nasty bodily function thing. And yeah, I think that this movie really is analyzing a lot of that. And then, I mean, I think it's safe to say all of his movies do that. Yeah, they really deconstruct in some way or the other. Like society, not only like the societal norms, but just like human life, human existence, what it means to be human, and breaks it down to like its bare essentials. Right. And analyzes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's putting something on screen that's very literal, despite even this being so surreal. And then we're looking at it as gross. He's not doing what somebody like John Carpenter does. You know what I mean? Or any other filmmaker I can think of. Really, like he is really, really making us uncomfortable in a very, very relatable way. And he's not using the other, which a lot of so many other horror films do use the other. The Thing, which we did recently, is very much about the other.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of conversation going on about the other now, because we're looking at the function of black bodies in horror, especially in the new Shudder documentary Horror Noir, and how even going back to like Birth of a Nation, black people are looked at as the other. And Birth of a Nation does have a lot of horror elements to it. That's sort of almost the point.
Yeah, I cringe at the very idea of it.
And so
you're right.
We're always looking for the other, but Cronenberg doesn't need an other, ever. Doesn't need another. It's always you. It's always turning around on you. Is there like some
specter of like some walking evil?
Anything like that, yeah,
right.
Exactly. It is yourself. And we'll see a lot of that in The Fly, especially so, which Cronenberg turns a huge trope of his right on its head with The Fly. But back to Videodrome, what do you think Videodrome represents itself? Not the film, the program.
The program?
Yes. Consider Masha saying that it has a philosophy.
Right.
Consider what it is versus the programming that Max already shows.
I don't know. I mean,
and why it's more dangerous than the whatever, like Samurai Dreams, for
right,
example.
whatever other programming that they were running originally.
Right.
That is just kind of obscene in its own way, but not like this. But the thing is that I don't know. I mean, like Videodrome, like they even mention it. They call it like a snuff film, right? And that's kind of how I see it. I think it reminds me a lot of like, what is it, like Video Leak stuff, or like when
Live Leak.
Live Leak, yeah.
Yeah, I think I have Live Leak written down here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially considering that Videodrome is a pirated signal. It's like something you're not supposed to see. Exactly. You're not planned to see.
But considering it also has like a philosophy, I mean, to me, it's almost, if you're gonna look at it in any philosophical like school of thought or whatever, it's hard to say anything else but like just complete nihilism, and saying that like nothing really matters, and that you can get away. And when you have like such a narrow point of view of like morals and ethics, you can get away with anything. There's no meaning to life. It's no value or sanctity to anything. Then you can do pretty much damn well anything. And I think that's what Videodrome represents. It's like almost like a de-evolution.
You've been listening to too much Devo.
Yeah, it's only today I was listening to them. God, I love them though. But yeah, no, it is like a de-evolution of like of how humans interact with one another. I mean, even in the movie, there is the cathode ray mission.
Yeah, the homeless shelter.
It's like a homeless shelter.
Shows them television.
Yeah, all you do is you sit down and like you just watch TV. I don't even know if like they really fed them or anything.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You don't see anybody getting fed. You don't see anybody sleeping or getting some kind of health care. They are literally sitting in front of television.
Right. And you know, it's definitely my own viewpoint on it, because I'm not the biggest fan of like technology taking over everything, but I look at it as like it's just that like technology has taken on so much of human life that it's a lot of people depend on it, and it's almost breaking down the way people normally interact, the way people normally behave, the way they normally think. I mean, they start thinking in terms of like TV and media. That goes back to like what Professor Oblivion said. That's going to be life. That's going to be reality.
Right.
That's going to be the flesh. Right. Exactly.
And that really must fulfill your paranoid fantasies of everybody being dumped onto a server.
Yes, yeah.
That you tend to like to talk to me about on long drives.
It's gonna happen. Oh, that's for another podcast. That's a philosophy
conspiracy
podcast.
theory podcast. I look at Videodrome as purposefully addictive entertainment. What separates it to me from like Samurai Dreams or anything else, even something like Videodrome the movie, is it's supposed to be consumed and then passed on. You know what I mean? But Videodrome stays with you. Videodrome, once Max sees it, it's in every single facet of his life.
Bodily too.
Yeah, bodily, emotionally, he's hallucinating. What does Brian Oblivion say to him? He says something along the lines of like your world is now already half hallucination. You have to fight to keep what you what you still have. I look at Videodrome as warning of entertainment that is specifically produced to keep you coming back.
Ooh.
And
I hate that.
You look at something like, and I hate to target them, but you look at like the Marvel movies, where everyone that you have to see everyone that comes out, and you can't jump on from anywhere but the beginning. You have to know everything, and you're not as good as the person who's also been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who's not as good as the person who's also been watching like Agent Carter or reading the comics or something like that. It's Videodrome is something that's purposefully addictive.
Remember, was it that I told you that I wanted to watch like the last season of Daredevil because I loved Daredevil. That was like I think the best Marvel show that Netflix had.
Jessica Jones, but okay.
Jessica Jones is fine. It's great. But I mean, just I don't know. I liked Daredevil since before like the TV show started.
Of course,
it was him and Spider-Man that I really liked. But anyway, but yeah, so I started watching it, and then I was like, "What did I miss?" Like I watched like the last season. I watched every episode, and I realized that it expected me to watch The Defenders, which I hadn't seen. So I was like, "This is BS." Like that, and that's true. Like that's how Marvel works. That's how social media works. That's why when you're on Instagram, Facebook, even YouTube now, I think has come around to scrolling, just endless scrolling.
Yeah.
So like when you search a video on YouTube, they've recently done this, where instead of like going to like another page for videos, we just keep scrolling endlessly.
Yeah.
And that's just specifically designed. There are people working at these companies, including like film companies like Marvel or the social media companies. They have people that know how to work human psychology, like psychology, and how to keep people on your site because that's how they make revenue.
Yeah, and that's really what I think Cronenberg is warning against. Not violent entertainment. He's not specifically warning against violence or sex. He's warning about shock and addiction, and intrigue, and how those link and how those can be used by somebody smarter than you to keep you on the chain.
So you don't think it has anything to do with like perversion or subversion of like norms? Like, you think it's just purely?
I think it's about using those things as a tool, for the entertainment itself. I don't think he's saying anything negative about sex or violence, really. At least in being depicted.
Right.
This comes out in '83. We've already got, I think by this point, we've got 3 Friday the 13th films. We're at the beginning of like the slasher cycle of, continuously coming out. And, he's been through the studio system a little bit. He sees that, what's gearing up. It's gearing up then for what they've perfected today, which is to keep people coming back, to keep a property. People don't even really see original films anymore. Everything needs to be either based on something currently existing or a sequel. Or,
Right. And that's why, like, last night I watched Game Night. I was going to watch, like, 2 other movies. I ended up landing on that one. And I was, like, so impressed. I was so, like, overjoyed watching this movie because here it was, an actual original story, an original comedy that doesn't revert to, like, weird, stupid fart jokes or, like, just low dangling fruit of, like, humor. Like, it's smart, funny, great like camera work, great cast. Like it was original, and I was like, why don't you see that? Should not be that much of a surprise to me. Right. We should get more content like that.
Right, absolutely. It's something that you watch, you saw, and you're good with. It's not designed for, oh my god, I can't wait for Game Night Part 2, right. Part 3, Part 7. You know what I mean?
It did have an interesting cliffhanger, but I don't think it's really
anything.
I don't.
Mostly to just end on a
just like, oh, the story's really not over, but I don't think you should expect a sequel.
Right. I certainly, that's how I read Videodrome.
That's interesting.
Personally, it's more of that's where it's prophetic.
I certainly didn't see it that way, but I can see your point though. That makes sense to me.
Yep. Do you have anything else to add about Videodrome? Are we already done with like such a good movie?
I mean, that's like, I feel like we're only like touching on one thing. That's the thing. Like, there's so many aspects to this movie that like you can just start, I don't know, picking away at every facet of it.
Gender politics within it. Like Max growing a vagina after being such a womanizer. And like, he compares the videotape slot to the vagina, the gun to the penis.
They don't say that in the movie, do they?
No, but it's clear.
Oh, no. I thought you said that they mentioned that. Okay.
And how something that I find interesting, Bianca Oblivion, is the only woman that Max comes across that he doesn't sexualize at all. Mm-hmm. And that's because she's a woman of power. She's got, composure, and she's got a philosophy, I guess, to herself too. And Max takes advantage of Nikki. He takes advantage of his girlfriend. Her name escapes me. The one who's like also his secretary.
Is that actually his girlfriend?
Yeah, even in the beginning, that's his girlfriend.
I thought it was just a weird.
That's how I read it. Oh, okay. Masha, he's also making slight passes to, like, let me take you out to dinner, kind of thing. But Bianca is the only woman he directly talks to. Even passing in the hallway, he grabs that. I guess she's an intern or something. Yeah, she grabs her ass. Bianca, he doesn't sexualize at all. Not in dreams, not anything. She is just above him. It's clearly stating that Max is he's taking advantage.
Yeah, like I said, he kind of just looks at like the world as like his playground, and that definitely includes women, except for Bianca, like you mentioned.
Mm. And also is the only only woman to change him too, because she reprograms him towards the end. She has a lot of power over him through every. She's not in the movie for a very long time, but there's never at any point where she's in the picture where Max feels like he's in control of the situation. And sure, there are men who take advantage of him. Again, I'd say layers of deception with his, video guy working against him with Corvex and whatnot. Convex. one of those
Convex.
convex.
Yeah. Like the
And he gets,
glasses.
but he's being taken advantage of by men. But he takes advantage of women until Bianca is in the picture.
Oof, just by saying that alone, you can kind of almost interpret it as like Max Red himself as a man is not all that perhaps masculine or all that intimidating to other men, but he finds women and he's like, oh, I can throw these ones around.
Because he's sleazy.
Right.
Because he doesn't have actual power. He runs a
Exactly.
shitty little channel.
Yep.
You know? It's about power
He's
dynamics.
a skis ball.
Yeah.
And
oh,
the
yeah,
whole
of course.
movie, oh my god, the whole movie feels grimy. Like, you
And
feel like you
it's-
have to shower after.
It's nice to live in a world where James Woods has really lived up to that. As a
Oh,
person.
he's legitimately sleazy.
A piece of shit.
Yeah,
yes.
he's awful.
Yeah.
Gone are the days where he would just show up on Family Guy and you'd be like, oh, it's James Woods, that's funny.
Yeah.
Now I know. Now I'm grown and I know to hate him.
So, you want to move on to the Dead Zone?
All right, let's move on. Let me get the synopsis up.
Cool.
Dead Zone, what year is that?
1983, along with Videodrome. I don't know this for sure, but it just feels like he was like a director for hire on this one. I know that they had already had like a script written from Stephen King, and I know that they had already had like a lot of things in motion, but that also goes for The Fly. But The Fly, like, he definitely had a lot of input in the final product.
Yeah, I mentioned to you that like it almost feels like a TV, either like a TV movie or like a TV like short series.
Yeah, there's certainly like a triptych, 3-part, feeling to this episodic feeling. I do have to say I'm really excited in this Cronenberg series. I do also get to talk about my favorite director in relation to two of my favorite writers, Stephen King, and then in the next episode I'll get to talk about William Burroughs.
Imagine he made a movie like about like Hunter S. Thompson to some degree.
Oh, that would be interesting. Terry Gilliam was the right guy, though.
Oh,
man, yeah. Terry Gilliam was the right person to do.
I'm not the biggest fan of that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it strips
It's
away a lot
really,
of
really
the.
trippy.
It strips away a lot of like what I read as like the more
importance.
important part.
Like the actual meat of that book. The book is not all about.
But
like,
also, like
drugs
at this point, I
that.
don't think that people want to consume something about how like the hippie era is dead, and like sort of.
He does it so.
It almost
perfectly.
reads like a goddamn fucking eulogy.
But he did it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He did it the best. So many other writers, so many other artists want to like talk about that, but I think Hunter S. Thompson did it the best.
Yep.
With Fear and Loathing.
Yeah.
But all right, so The Dead Zone, 1983, a Stephen King adaptation.
Yes,
less.
if I'm not wrong, this is actually the first written Castle Rock story as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it?
Yes, and the Castle Rock killer, like the serial killer, he's also mentioned in other books like Firestarter. He also might be in Cujo. I could be wrong.
Cujo's on Amazon too now, I think it is.
Yeah, he's not in the movie, but in the book, Cujo.
Yeah.
Cujo's wild. Stephen King doesn't even remember writing it because he's so fucked up on coke and alcohol. My fucking hero. So.
All right. Synopsis for this real quick.
From our friends at IMDb.
Real short, this one. A man awakens from a coma to discover he has a psychic ability.
That's it?
Yeah, and then look at the one from Letterboxd though. Just take a second. That's like a paragraph.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But you also have the tagline.
There's the tagline too. Yeah.
Is that in everything?
Yeah, for every movie nearly, I would say, on Letterboxd.
Oh wow, okay. That's cool. I
Letterboxd
don't really
is
use
great.
Letterboxd. I think I've mentioned that.
Yeah. But no, I don't think that's I mean that's okay. In all fairness, that is basically the point of the story.
Yeah.
It's very straightforward.
It's a very straightforward film.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know what? In all fairness, that might just be a pretty good synopsis. Enough for this movie. Yeah.
We get the title card again, the black Dead Zone, but then they show the Dead Zone twice, right?
I didn't get that because first it's like just like standard like Arial font text or whatever, and then it's like the design from like the book cover.
That was Dino De Laurentiis saying like probably doing that. He is a fucking sleazeball in the industry too. But we've got producer Deborah Hill on this, who was the producer on
Rabid.
Halloween.
Oh.
Yeah, former I'm not sure if they were married or if they were just partners of John Carpenter.
Deborah Hill.
Deborah Hill. Yeah. We got Christopher Walken as the very appropriately named Johnny Smith. And we've got Martin Sheen as Greg Stilson, and we've got Tom Skerritt as the sheriff. We've got no Howard Shore on this, but we do have Mark Irwin behind the camera. Instead, we've got a really nice score by Michael Kamen I really, really like the music in The Dead Zone, particularly.
Yeah.
We get a lot of Cronenberg playing around with some Stephen King tropes, a lot of Americana. We see that with like American school teachers and roller coasters. There's a scene where they kiss in the rain, car crashes, which has always been a favorite of Stephen King, and a very American death in car crashing. There's trucks and truckers, another thing he loves to play with. Religion and religious parents. It's almost a very religious story.
Yeah, it certainly is.
American politics and Reagan era politics, the Cold War. I really feel like if they were when he has the vision of Greg Stilson pressing the button for the nuclear missiles, it's definitely going to Russia. If it's made in '83, those are definitely going to Russia.
And honestly, like just considering the way things are right now, I kind of just figured it was going there anyway.
Wow, have we ever really left the Cold War?
No.
Yeah.
Cold War, though, good movie.
Yeah. Cronenberg greatly changed Stephen King's original draft of the script for this. He made it more linear. There was also a couple of other writers who worked on this, but this is one of the rare occurrences where Stephen King actually said it made the film better.
But Cronenberg's not listed as a writer on this.
Oh, he definitely changed stuff.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, as far as like writing credits go,
he doesn't get on where? IMDb?
Letterboxd I was looking at, and I don't think on IMDb either.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's odd. Cronenberg actually called Stephen King's script needlessly brutal. Yeah, Jeremy Boehm was the main writer, and even he changed a lot.
Yeah.
I know Jeremy's was Jeffrey. He had a few drafts that were just like he was just trying to make it less and less convoluted because I know that I haven't read the book, but I know it's a little wonky. As all of Stephen King's books are. They're very long and they jump through time.
But you know what's funny is that, like, as I was watching this, I felt like I even haven't read anything by Stephen King aside from like short stories of his. I never read a novel, I guess is to say. But I've seen, I don't know how many movies that are adapted from his works.
Right.
And all of them, great stories, but like to me they're so plot driven that like I was curious to see how Cronenberg was going to do it because his movies aren't necessarily plot driven. It's a lot of atmosphere, a lot of like mystique,
aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is very much I can't imagine this movie being much more dense than like what would you possibly add to that, you know?
Right.
I don't know. It felt like another Stephen King adaptation, which I was not expecting from a Cronenberg helmed movie.
Yeah, which is why I feel he was sort of a director for hire on it.
Right.
What's funny is I do feel a little bit of that Cronenberg influence.
Do you?
I certainly do. And I understand why he would take the project. He gets to go back to the clinic, which is, a place he always likes to be in. He always loves the doctor, even though there is no like mad doctor. It's not a doctor's fault.
True.
He does get to deal with somebody dealing with a traumatic incident, and then coming out of it, changed somehow, very physically changed. There's not much of a difference between him having Christopher Walken's character having a psychic power versus what's her name on Rabid?
I don't know.
Lost her name again. Oh, damn. Versus her having, the appendage. They're coming out with something that makes them more than human.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then they're going to have to deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah.
So I understand this is still certainly in the Cronenbergian realm.
Yeah, but I mean, even the themes to me didn't seem like anything that he had done before. I mean, does Cronenberg maybe after this series, because it doesn't seem like within even this second episode, does he deal with themes of like religion as much, like at least so clearly about Christianity?
There's a lot of religion in Eastern Promises, isn't there?
Yes, but that doesn't count. It's not a horror.
It's okay. Cronenberg is Cronenberg. There's non-horror movies in the next episode.
This wasn't very much horror.
No, it's still a horror movie. It's
no,
King.
Am I thinking of this? No, I think I'm thinking more of Dead Ringers in a way.
Yeah, Dead Ringers.
Not much horror. But still,
more psychological horror. We are definitely starting to see Cronenberg shift into the psychological.
But still,
like the outright.
I mean? That's what I'm kind of getting at. Though.
Yeah.
Even like this, you can see it here. Like he's kind of moving away from like certain themes that he had dealt with before. Like, and that's what's so interesting to me. So like from Videodrome to this now. Granted, if we are saying that like this is kind of like a director for hire,
like as a job,
yeah, that's fine. I get it. But it's just like a weird blip in like his filmography. And then going back to The Fly, it's like, okay, I get it. That makes sense.
I also feel like by the point where he reaches Videodrome, he's very comfortable as a director, and he starts to kind of stretch. And even The Fly, he's stretching a lot. With Dead Ringers and with the films that we'll see in the next episode, he's certainly more comfortable getting out of his zone until he eventually leaves horror. You know what I mean? Right, last 4 or 5 films, like there's no horror in them.
Yeah, basically.
I don't think he really ever set out to make horror films. He just wound up finding a lot of his stories, the stories that resonated with him, worked in horror.
Right.
And you'll see that with a lot of directors, and just some of them just get stuck there forever. But Cronenberg is a little bit bigger. His mind can't stay in that realm.
Good point. Yeah. And I personally love his non-horror movies.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, that's all I had seen before. And,
Eastern Promises and History of Violence you'd seen, right? And Cosmopolis.
Cosmopolis. Now during these episodes, I did Maps to the Stars too. I think the only one I'm missing.
Method?
That's the only one that I'm missing. I think.
Fast Company.
No, I haven't seen that.
I was this close to buying it on DVD yesterday because there's a 2-pack on Amazon of Cannonball and Fast Company, and I really want to see it. I'm gonna try to make a point by like the end of this year to have seen like every Cronenberg film,
every single one,
everything. I've seen a lot of his short films and stuff too. So, well, this movie has a really strange structure. Like I mentioned, it feels like episodes of television. The first episode being just like entirely like a pilot, almost like an introduction. You get a background on his life before the accident. You get the accident. You get his first experience with it, and sort of everybody realizing that he, has this sort of power. It goes out very quickly. That felt really awkward to me. Like everybody, he gets a press conference right after he tells the nurse, like, "Oh, Amy,
go get your
daughter."
Go get her. She's
and Christopher Walken just. He's great.
Really well in this.
I love him.
So good.
Martin Sheen too.
Don't get me started on Martin Sheen, man.
But he sort of rejects his own fame or infamy, however you want to look at it, and he becomes a shut-in. And then he's asked by the police.
It's a very sweet story to me. I kind of view it that way. Very humanist story.
Yeah, which definitely lends itself to the sort of like maybe Christian like religious parallels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Almost like a silent martyr. He really is. You know what I mean?
He certainly becomes
thankless. But he is asked in like the second part of the film to help with an investigation for the Castle Rock killer, and the whole part is really just about that. It's very procedural. It happens pretty quickly. Tom Skerritt is good, always very beautiful, good man. Dallas and Alien. It's pretty simple. It's more of just like him flexing his powers and really understanding that he can change the future and that he can really like get in on like a past event. It's him understanding himself. It's like the awakening, the understanding, and the execution.
It's like a
Those
training
are like the 3
segment of like this is how he can flex his powers and all that.
Right. Yeah. And all the while through these stories, especially the first and the third, he's struggling with the loss of his girlfriend, who he had plans to marry
because of the coma.
Yeah, he was in a 5-year coma.
She does move on.
Yeah, she does move on, get married, have a child. They have an affair. I guess that's part of the second part of the film. So yeah, she really permeates the whole film and comes back and forth into his life.
I think that's like the main anchor. Of all of this.
Yeah. Is him trying to do some kind of good and also like not being able to wrestle with the fact of like, well, it's been no time for me. I wasn't. I was basically brain dead. I'm still in love with you, but you've moved on because it's been 5 years. So there's really a human element that he'll be able to flex even better in the next film. But he aids the police. He gets shot. Bad luck follows this dude around, and they catch the Castle Rock killer.
Which was that was a cool segment, I gotta say too.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. That house was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Creepy.
The wallpaper, either the wallpaper or like the lighting itself was like green. And like this hallway, it was gross. It was great.
And then moving on to the next, the final part, it's him learning of Greg Stilson, who becomes, I guess, sort of the major villain for the movie. because he's sort of in the background for the second part of it.
Yeah,
At least.
all you hear is that like people are like kind of campaigning. You see that across the street from where he's now living.
Yeah, they build a big billboard.
As a teacher, a tutor, there's like a billboard of Stilson's face on it.
He develops a very sweet relationship with that boy.
Yeah,
too.
And
it's very nice. Yeah, and he saves his life.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, not the other kids.
Right. But that's just the headstrong father. Of course, more abusive men in Cronenberg movies. There you go. There's your abusive man for.
Oh my, true. Yeah, okay.
For this one,
the abusive father.
Abusive father, of course. Women aren't the only people abused.
Why are you looking at me?
I wasn't looking at you. Oh my god!
I'm not venting on air.
You wanna?
No.
Oh my god! We saved that. We did that in XX.
We did. Oh, that's true.
So he actually does meet Greg Stilson in a great scene. Prior to anything, when he's walking into the house to meet the boy for the first time that he eventually saves and he tutors.
Yeah.
And he goes for a handshake and he blocks it with a big pin.
Gets that pin.
With a big button.
That was cool.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Sheen.
But as soon as that happens, you're like, okay, this guy's fishy. Not just because it's a politician, like screw politicians or whatever. Right. It's like, okay, there's a reason why there's a stop there, narratively speaking. Yeah. But Martin Sheen, man, don't get me started. He's so good in this. Martin Sheen is a great actor.
I guess this is more of Stephen King's idea than Cronenberg. I wouldn't give this to Cronenberg since it's based on a book. But the Greg Stilson character, very, very much a modern day parable for Mr. Donald Trump.
Who's that?
Donald Trump?
Yeah.
President of the United States of America.
Not my president.
Hey. No president's ever been my president. But yeah, definitely sort of Greg Stilson's place as a third party candidate. Definitely
voice of the people.
Voice of the people.
Anti politics or whatever.
And it's not like Donald Trump didn't run on the Republican platform, but he was certainly the outlier. And he was certainly it seemed like even the people in his own party, wanted to take him down until he was the last one left. Until
he just
and it was about
parried
power.
Every single attack that he could and turned it around on them. He's like, oh, you see how they're attacking him?
Even the attacks that he would make against himself, everything that would come out only just made him more popular. Yeah. But we do get the bittersweet end to Greg Stilson that we didn't get to Donald Trump.
Not yet.
Not yet.
You never know. He's still, still president. So
yeah. We certainly get he gets his comeuppance.
Yes,
to an extent,
in a really cool way. Like it's a really humiliating way, which is almost better than like him actually successfully getting assassinated.
He deserves it more,
having being defamed and being shown as a total fraud and wimp and all that. Right, piece of shit. He's revealed as a terrible human, which is great. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
you can't seem to do that in reality.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Greg Stilson, he bullies reporters. Mm-hmm. We see that he's blackmailing. Mm-hmm. He's spreading lies, but also putting out this persona, I am one of you. Yeah. But clearly he's not. Just like clearly Donald Trump is not. A man of the people. Yep. But I definitely see that most of the power of this film being in that third act. It's definitely, the first two parts lend itself to that. But it certainly is. There's a lot of payoff to the Johnny character. There's a lot of payoff for for everybody. Even, him being able to say his last words to the love of his life.
Yeah, he says, I love you, right?
Yeah. Or does he say I love you or something?
I thought he did. Either he or she does. Someone does say
I think she says that. He says something like, it's okay now or something like that. Everything's okay.
Oh, yeah. He's referring to how the future changed.
Yeah.
Because he held Stilson's hand again, I guess, and he saw that he saw that
commit suicide. Yeah. And Newsweek had that great thing.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like you said, even in my notes, I wrote here this is halfway through the movie, when he's at Dodds. Mm-hmm. So and my note is so what's the rest? Really, what happens after here? And it's not only wondering where the story's going to go. It's okay, what's the point of keep watching? Why should I keep watching? Right. Why should I remain interested? And it's when that third act comes in, it's that you're really interested because the implications are the world's probably going to end in World War III. So yeah, it's a great ending. It's a weird roundabout way of getting there.
It's a really weird movie.
Yeah,
I would call the second act a bit of a slog.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely like out of nowhere. It's just like, hey, there's a killer. You want to help us catch it? And then that's just dropped in favor of like.
It really does feel like a show.
Yeah, it really does.
It's like, oh, we got canceled. We just have to cap it now.
It's like each episodic part of the movie would have been like a season of the show,
right? Almost
just condensed.
Yeah.
And it's like that season 2 slog, that sophomore slump, sort of thing, just like Twin Peaks.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's a really weird blip in Cronenberg's career.
Yeah.
I've even noticed that I haven't really talked much about Cronenberg for this segment.
Truly, I mean, the only Cronenberg-esque part to me was the press conference, because he, that's the thing that happens kind of frequently. Like, it's the main character having to speak to like an audience of people.
Yeah, scanners.
So that's the only part that really, I don't know, rang any bells to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. That makes sense.
Other than that, I don't know. Doesn't feel like Cronenberg.
And also, shades of Scanners with him sort of, the person that, consider Revik as the person with the power, as is Johnny, the antagonizer, gets, a little bit of, some bad luck. Instead of a head blowing up, he sort of gets like, oh, you want to talk about your sister's suicide?
You mean like the journalist?
Yeah, the journalist guy being, the head exploder.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah.
Sort of explodes his head in a more metaphoric way.
I like that.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice spin.
Yeah. So there's Cronenberg in there. I think it's hard to not.
Faint.
Yes. But it is. It was fun. It's a good movie. Exactly. There was a lot worse Stephen King adaptations out there,
and I don't think it takes away at all from the movie. I mean, Christopher Walken does a really great job here.
Yep.
Brooke Adams, I feel like any movie I see her in, like I love her anyway.
She's in something else I wanted to see today. I saw her name pop up. Maybe she's in The Unborn. I think she's in a movie called The Unborn. That's like a 90s horror, maybe late 80s. But yeah, it's free on Amazon Prime. I was adding a bunch of movies to my Prime list yesterday.
I just watched Days of Heaven not too long ago.
Terrence Malick.
So I was like, oh, yeah, it's her again. I love her.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
And then Martin Sheen, again, fantastic job. I feel like he's probably the most naturalistic actor I've seen in any Cronenberg's movie so far.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is like a stylistic choice or what have you. Maybe like make someone who seems so natural like stand out more because like he's like putting on air, right? Or maybe it's like Martin Sheen's like saying like, no, I'm not going to act a certain way. This is the way I'm going to do it. But he does seem to be the most like natural, like not to say the method, like he's a method actor or whatever, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Like it's just trying to give a very sincere to human life portrayal. But other than that, though, other than Brooke Adams, it's a bit of a boys' club. This movie.
Yeah.
I think that was another part that kind of threw me off.
Yeah, I mean, there's the mother as well, I guess.
Right.
Like his mother.
Uh-huh.
She's got a very small role.
Oh wow! You cast women for moms and love interests. How progressive.
Hey, characters are also based off of Stephen King stories.
I know. But that's just another aspect that kind of threw me off from Cronenberg's scent on this movie.
Fair. So are we done with this one? Ready to flush this one down the drain and head to
now we move on to
Brundletown.
What a great name.
Right? Seth Brundle, man. Fuck. Alright, so let's do The Fly, baby. 1986 for flash forwarding 3 years. 3 years.
3 years. Yeah. Alright, here it is. The Fly, 1986, as you said already. A brilliant but eccentric scientist begins to transform into a giant man-fly hybrid after one of his experiments goes horribly wrong.
What if the movie was called Man-Fly?
Man-Fly! Man-Fly, we need you! My kids are stuck in the burning building! Man-Fly!
He's too busy eating shit.
What? I'm sorry. All right, now we move on to Dead Ringers.
All right, there we go. Okay, so we've got Jeff Goldblum playing Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we've got Gina Davis as Ronnie.
Love of my life.
She's beautiful in her own special way.
She's another one. I just every movie, no matter what I see her in, I just love her. She's great. Gina Davis, the best. Obviously because I love Beetlejuice, though. You know that's kind of mainly why.
Or
God,
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin's great too in that
That's
movie.
an attractive couple.
Very attractive.
Yeah, and
I wish they were my parents.
Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis behind the scenes, even including this movie, were a couple.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
Goldblum and Gina Davis?
Yeah, they were cast like together.
Oh, they were dating.
Yeah, they met on a movie prior to this.
Ah.
Yep. Mel Brooks of classic comedy fame is the executive producer and also came up with the very famous tagline: "Be afraid, be very afraid."
Which is so? Did he come up with the line in the script too? Then, because it's a line.
I don't know, but I know that he took it as a tagline.
But he was like, "Hey, use that." Yeah, cool.
Yeah. We've got Howard Shore back doing the music, and we've got Mark Irwin's last film with Cronenberg with this one.
Sad days.
Yeah. So we've got the classic black opening, of course.
It's kind of necessary.
Kind of his thing. That this is the last movie that he sort of drops it after this. Because Dead Ringers doesn't. Dead Ringers has a very animated opening with the gynecological tools kind of shifting across the screen.
I can't say I remember.
It's all red.
I can't recall. I don't know why. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Either way.
Shame on me.
This is Cronenberg's most human film. You get very wrapped up in the human drama. Yeah. There's more of a Hollywood veneer on this movie than any of his others. This is certainly, got a good budget and some stars behind it. If you really hit the big time doing Videodrome for Universal, this is sort of the culmination of that before he really heads back to the art house for Dead Ringers.
I was going to say, would you say that Dead Ringers is
him heading back? Yeah, this is him going back to his roots, really. But also attacking a lot of new subject matter and taking a lot of lessons he would learn in The Fly about creating human stories and stories about bonds. He heavily rewrote the script, and he was asked to direct The Fly, and he said no initially because he was tacked on to direct Total Recall. And then he accepted after he was dropped off. This is incredibly different from the 50s version. I had watched that a few months ago. Give myself a refresher because it's been a lot of years. Definitely takes a lot of the campier elements out. There's no help me, giant fly head on a human body. And even a lot of the original film does not take place from like the scientist's point of view. It's a lot of Vincent Price, who's his friend, and a bit of the wife. That was also in the initial script for the remake, was that they weren't going to be named Seth Brundle. He actually, Cronenberg came up with those names. But they were actually going to be a married couple and like a little bit older that this was all going to happen to. But
it's really heartbreaking the way it is, though. So
yes.
Good choice.
The thing that is taken most from that initial script is the gradual transformation rather than in The Fly where it's just one to the other.
And he just becomes that mutant thing?
No, he just has got a fly head and I think one arm that's like a claw. Like that's all that happens to him. He's still like a fully functioning person from the neck down, basically. But that gradual transformation definitely helps add empathy to the character and allows him to keep a voice and keep a personality while transforming and seeing that breakdown.
And seeing the struggle, like, of how that affects his life and how it affects his, like, it almost makes him hungrier for more of his experiments. He's like, I need to figure out what the heck is going on. I need to know. Because at first he thinks that, like, he becomes a superhuman, basically. Right, and
he's in love with it, and he's more active and virile.
He even wants Gina Davis's character to do it herself.
Yeah, he tries multiple women to drag them into that. He thinks it's like a miracle cure. He doesn't really understand what's going on, but he sees the results in himself.
Right.
He starts eating a lot of sweets. Yes. I've noticed that, and that I sort of think, a fly, they eat trash, they eat excrement, and we'll talk about this more, but I think there's picking a fly as the insect to turn into is a really interesting choice if you talk about like the relationship humans have with flies.
Kind of like the whole swatting thing?
Not necessarily, but part of it is that, flies eat trash, right? They live off of excrement and trash. And looking at Brundle, whose diet basically at that point, after he goes through pods, he only really eats sugar and sugary stuff. You'll notice it litters his apartment. He's eating chocolate bars and he's dumping sugar and sugar and sugar and sugar into his cappuccino.
Yeah.
So is Cronenberg almost making like a healthy choices statement, saying that like junk food
Using this as like a PSA?
Slightly.
Like, hey,
That,
sugar
like,
is trash.
Yeah, it's like a fly eats trash. What's human trash? Oh, Twinkies and chocolate bars and things like that.
Well, I'm going on a diet now.
Yeah,
No
it makes me
sugar
feel bad.
and no carbs.
After tonight, because we got Montclair Vegan.
Yes, that's we do.
Shouts out to Montclair Vegan, sponsor of this episode.
I will gladly plug them, man.
Yeah, they're good food.
Good food. Good eating and vegan.
Yeah. So, do you want me to go more into sort of the fly aspect of it, or you want to keep talking about the movie, talk about that later?
How do you mean? I'm not sure I follow.
The fly has a really interesting relationship with humans. They live on, like... we relate flies to corpses and to garbage, to excrement, to things that we are done with, to death and to waste.
Okay.
And to turn him into a fly and have him decompose is really interesting because not only is it repulsive just because it's a fly, but he's also, at any given point, he's deteriorating.
True.
Body parts are falling off. He creates the Seth Brundle Museum of Natural History or whatever he calls it in his cabinet. It's really just an interesting dynamic to it being a fly rather than him turning into really anything else. She gives birth to a maggot. You know what I mean? Maggots, they grow on trash. You know what I mean? They're born on trash. You ever open up your trash can in like the summer and there's just maggots everywhere?
Yeah.
Because you left the lid off or something like that?
Yeah. Only once in my life and it was nasty.
Yeah, it's gross. And it's disgusting. And that definitely adds more of a psychological layer to like... even looking at it as a parable for the AIDS crisis. Because, yeah, of course, you look at, like, them fearing that it's going to spread. Her ex-boyfriend / I guess, like, editor tells her, I don't want you going near him. You don't know if that can spread. You don't know if it's contagious. His body's breaking down. When she wants the abortion, she specifically says, I don't want this inside of me. True. It's out of his control. He doesn't really understand what it is. I'd certainly see some... and that's not just
so
me.
Sad too, man. This whole movie is just
it's very sad.
Yeah,
but that's not just my comparison. That's always been a thing that people have said. Yeah, that a lot of films at the time.
Now I have a contextual question.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on in Cronenberg's life, like personal life here? Because to me, like I felt kind of emotional and teary-eyed just thinking like their blooming relationship. That's like really beautiful and really sweet. It's going to have to fall apart when he becomes like this monster. And it's like almost the complete opposite of like The Brood, where he was going through like his divorce at that time. And to me, like this almost seems like a romantic movie, but done by Cronenberg, where like even that doesn't work out. So like, was he experiencing something?
I'm not really sure.
Was there anything?
I'm not really sure where his life is at this point, what he's doing.
It seems a lot lighter. Even the music is lighter on this one. It's a lot more airy, a lot...
Yep.
More, I don't know, E.T., like mystical, like family kind of friendly music.
I know that he sort of had a purpose in creating a film that was very humanistic in order to lure people into seeing a horror movie as extreme as The Fly becomes.
Fair point.
I know that was definitely something that he was interested in.
Yeah.
This is really the ultimate Cronenberg mixture. You've got technology, you've got the body, you've got the mind, you've got, just gruesome grossness, sexual, like awakening. He actually calls this movie his version of the sexual awakening of the nerd. Which,
that's like literal though too.
Yes. I almost think, is there something to be said in this film about incel culture?
Oh my god. No, we're not going to force that into this movie.
I don't know, man.
We already did that with The Prodigy.
Because Brundle becomes very possessive. He's very abusive, trying to force, her and that the woman he takes home.
Yeah. Force them to go into the pods as well.
Right.
Not like he's...
To be like me, to drag them down into that. Even as he sees his skin is falling apart, as he sees... and then in the end, what only thing he wants Gina Davis for is to, preserve some sort of humanity in himself.
Yeah.
He wants to merge with her and the baby in order to get as much fly out of him as possible.
Right. Which would subsequently definitely ruin them.
Yes, he essentially just becomes a very, very selfish, damaged person.
Mm. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I don't think Cronenberg was... you know what? Who knows? Maybe he had a feeling about incel culture. He knew that was going to happen, just like he predicts everything else. Now you mentioned how like this is a pretty good blend of a lot of Cronenberg's main topics and themes.
This movie, more than any other, is cited as his masterpiece. I disagree, but
maybe most accessible.
Yeah, certainly his most accessible.
Except for probably the Dead Zone, but that's like not really looked at.
Yeah,
no one really talks about that as much.
And the quality of this is certainly not there.
Oh yeah,
in the Dead Zone, like this is far beyond.
But I do want to talk about like the cross of like humanity and technology, because I found this to be probably one of the better examples of his looks on Cronenberg's like theory on it. Because Gina Davis, she literally says, or no, Brundle end up saying that computers are dumb and that they only know what you tell them.
Right.
And he kind of like internalizes that, and he says like, I must not know enough about the flesh myself. I have to learn that.
Right. Is that in around the same point where he's talking about the steak?
Yes.
Like a computer is giving us its translation of a steak.
Epiphany, exactly.
Because it hasn't it's not crazy about flesh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, what I realized, like, and this is something that I think is just said all the time about like human creativity and what's great about humans or what computers can never do, is that technology is only going to be as good as like humankind, or it's only going to know as much as humans possibly could. And humans, like, our brains can function a little differently, and we can actually rationalize things and be creative.
Yeah, that certainly sums up Cronenberg's philosophy on technology, because he's always said like it's an extension of us. We program it. We are the masters, no matter what.
These characters, though, like specifically Brundle, like does think that it's possible. Though he does believe that technology can exceed human. He thinks that humans can be more human than what they already are,
and it destroys him.
Exactly.
But you'll even see, going back to Videodrome, I don't mean to, but going back to Videodrome, you'll see even like Videodrome is not what's in power; it's the people who are running Videodrome. It's always people at the core of it. So there's
like
always
behind it.
Yes, there's always something. It's not just the technology or the science; it's the human who is in charge of that. There's almost like a little bit of an anti-authoritarian streak in Cronenberg.
Fair. And this movie's not vegan.
No.
Because he tests on baboons.
Yes. There's animal testing.
They live.
That's a good movie, too.
Or at least only one baboon lives. There were
the other one. Ooh,
yeah.
There's there's some deleted scenes where he like tries to merge a monkey and a cat.
Ooh.
And other things, yeah. Certainly. But going back to the computer thing, I certainly, you look at this movie and it's almost like it's very clear to see sort of that like man becoming monster sort of arc to it. That's very a classic Hollywood horror arc. Man versus monster, man turning into monster, man who is monster outside of his control.
Right.
Wolfman, Frankenstein, Hunchback of Notre Dame, which they really, really are going for Hunchback of Notre Dame on that movie? Shot of him looking a roof, building? Looking down. He's got his little chunk that he's looking down off of.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But also, this movie is almost like a relationship played in like fast forward. It is. You don't see a montage of him working. Even after he realizes, they're not crazy about flesh. Next scene, it's solved. You know what I mean? It's almost like this relationship is fast forwarding where he is becoming something that she, doesn't recognize anymore. And what's physically happening is also happening to them emotionally.
Absolutely.
He's chosen to fuse with something else, being the machine and science, the fly, accidentally, due to a drunken mistake, ironically, which also lends itself to the sort of like the folly of the relationship and the abusive man, and it's her having to deal with that. And her having no one to turn to. And
he's aware of that, though, too. Like, because Brundle's trying to make sense of what's totally an absurd situation. Yeah. I mean, he even has a line that says, he says to what's her name, Ronnie?
Veronica. Yeah,
okay.
Ronnie.
Yeah, he says, I'm saying I'll hurt you if you stay.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably... like aware that like he's kind of turning into like something that he certainly was not. He was charismatic before, but now he's turning into like this kind of grotesque person.
His mind is breaking down.
Yeah, and considering that he truly does love her, I mean, they do have a loving relationship, as short as it is. Um, he doesn't want to see her get hurt. And I think that's like maybe I'm not sure when that quote is said, but maybe that's like the last moment of like lucidity that he has, and he's like, this is the moment that you should leave, so that what happens later, like, I can't affect you.
Right.
Instead,
and
though,
he still does,
yeah.
because he breaks it. He steals her when she's trying to have an abortion.
Exactly.
Says, "Oh, don't get rid of this part of me.
Mm.
You're killing me if you do this."
Yeah.
He becomes
it still happens.
Yeah, he can't even help himself.
Yeah.
There's that great line, that great little monologue he does, where he's talking about how insects don't have politics, and he wants to be the first insect politician.
Yeah.
And how he's an insect who dreamed he was a man,
yeah.
and he was a man for a short time, but he's always been an insect. And that lends itself even to that too. Is like he was masquerading around as this okay person, as this person who could function, and the events, himself, his own, messing with nature, turned him into what he really was at his core.
Yeah, and that's I think why I like a lot of what this movie does with interpersonal relationships. The implications, there's not much larger scheme. There's not much of a larger scheme to this movie aside from just this relationship. Like you said, the way he's falling apart, the way he's turning into this monster, is the way their relationship is also falling apart too.
Right.
And I love that. Like you said, this might just be Cronenberg's most human movie.
Yeah.
Which is funny, is ironic because he's it's a human turning into a monster.
Yeah.
But I think it's also because it's so contained. A lot of the action takes place at Brundle's home/lab.
Yeah, I haven't watched this movie in quite a bit of time, but it's funny. It feels like this movie came back into my life at the right time, because over the past week, a personal hero, somebody who was really, really important to me, it came out that he was pretty abusive and pretty bad, but it made me look at myself and my own tendencies, and realizing that in past relationships I had turned into something that I couldn't even recognize, and that I knew wasn't true to my soul, or maybe it was. You know what I mean? Not really sure. Is that the real me? Is this the real me? Have I turned into something bad out of complacency, or because I don't know how to deal with my own emotions? And so having that in The Fly, and having that aspect of it, really
live, right? Dealing with like you said, the hero of yours too.
Right.
It all just kind of culminated like that.
Yeah, it all culminates in this movie, and it was really touching.
Sorry, Tina, you were hurting me. Your nails.
So I really, really felt that aspect of this film, that he's it is a relationship film ultimately.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. I mean, I think many people might have worries. Let's say it's a real touching, real wholesome kind of relationship, like these two have. When it starts ending and it starts falling apart, almost like a scientist, when your experiments end up going wrong, even if it's your own limitations, you're still gonna internalize that. You're still gonna make that about yourself and be like, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Why is this happening? What do I need to change? So yeah, it's this to me again, this is such a great Cronenberg movie, and like you mentioned, I think this is a good cornerstone of if you want to know what Cronenberg's about, this might be a good movie to start with. Yeah.
It turns out to be the movie that a lot of people do start with, because it's definitely the most easily accessible, I would say. And you do get that classic Cronenberg trope that we see in every single one of the films from the first episode, which is the mad doctor, kind of experimenting and then, turning somebody into, a monster, I guess.
Except he does it to himself.
Except he does it to himself. Yeah, this is almost the culmination of that, because I don't really think you see Cronenberg playing with that specifically anymore after this. This is almost his final little word on it.
I don't know.
Dead Ringers?
I would say.
A little bit. I
would say.
Very literally a doctor in that, and that's almost, I don't know. I read that a little bit differently.
Especially since it's twins, though.
Yeah, and especially because there is no supernatural horror, or otherworldly. Oh yeah, science fiction or otherworldly sort of horror aspect to Dead Ringers.
Not very genre.
Yeah, and this is the beautiful effects in this movie. We
Yes,
haven't
we
really
haven't really
talked.
talked
We
about
didn't
that.
really talk about that in the Videodrome either, which had some pretty wonderful effects.
True, jeez, I don't know
Rick
why we
Baker.
didn't talk about that.
Rick Baker.
There is such great effects in Videodrome.
Yeah.
God, we didn't even mention it.
Yeah.
We'll just say it right now. I mean, I think you'll know like the centerpieces if you considering you've seen it, because I know you have.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously James Woods' stomach vagina thing. The infusion of like the gun with his hand.
The wonderful like breathing television,
The TV,
and
all the
breathing,
iconic thing. Man.
video cassette.
Yeah.
But this is the only Cronenberg film to win an Oscar. The Fly won for best special effects.
Screw the Oscars, man. Jump forward to 2019 and you'll see exactly what I mean.
Oh, Green Book.
Ooh.
Yes, a classic of American film and cinema.
Social Network's gonna win next year, though.
Oh,
I bet you money, baby.
You better lawyer up, asshole.
Ooh.
I'm not
coming. Oh, say it!
No.
I'm coming for everything.
What is he? I'm not coming back for 30,000, or I'm not coming back for 30%.
It's like I think it's like 30% or something.
He's like, I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything. Yeah. And then he's Spider-Man.
Yes, and he's a great Spider.
What? What?
Excuse
me.
Controversial. He's a great Spider-Man.
Hey,
not a great Peter Parker.
No,
not a great Peter Parker, but a great Spider-Man.
Terrible. So, you have anything else to add about The Fly?
The Fly? Let's see. Let me just do a quick scan. I was really emotionally invested looking at my notes. The murder scene, like the end scene, gruesome as shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
And I love how it ends right there.
Yeah.
I love how there's no epilogue. There's no like, oh, she's living with the other guy or she's doing anything. It just that is the end of the story.
Even the movie starts pretty like much like in the middle like of a scene too. So.
Yeah, it's like right there. It's about
like this is what's happening. There's nothing outside of that.
Yeah.
Beginning, end, whatever. Like this is what matters.
Yep.
So great job on that. Okay, I'm good. Moving on.
Dead Ringers, 1988. One of my personal favorite Cronenberg films. Makes me feel gross and also heartbroken at the same time. I really love this one.
Real smarmy movie too. Not in the same way. Not in the same way as Videodrome, but still just as uneasy. All right, 1988. Here is your IMDb, not sponsored synopsis. Not sponsored synopsis. I like that. Twin gynecologists take full advantage of the fact that nobody can tell them apart until their relationship begins to deteriorate over a woman.
Yeah. It sounds more straightforward than it really is.
Is it over? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely.
It's over
that woman. Yeah. I would read that as that. Maybe not in the way of like a love triangle.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think it's kind of. It sounds like it's pinning it as a love triangle when it's not.
At the core of this movie is Jeremy Irons playing. Goddamn, his two best roles ever.
And his twin.
Yeah, Jeremy Irons and Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
Playing Beverly and Elliot Mantle, who are based on real-life twin gynecologists who died together in a New York apartment in 1975. That is Stuart and Cyril Marcus, and actually the information on their deaths is still like really, really confused and misunderstood.
Yeah.
It was originally thought that they both died from barbiturate withdrawals, like prescription drug withdrawals, and it turns out just one of them did, and the other one, they died within like 4 days of each other, and the other twin only left the apartment once. Like they know he left the apartment once, they don't know what for, and he came back and he just died. They can't even figure out why he died.
If you watch the movie, you'll know.
Just fear. Right, is kind of what they imply.
Yeah, basically, he was in such shock at seeing his dead twin that it caused him to die.
Yes. We've got Howard Shore's wonderful music on this incredible film, but we don't have Mark Irwin, who left the project in pre-production.
And you can feel it.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
I would say it, but it also really restores a classic Cronenberg look. Like that real classic sort of darker, grayer look that his other films have, and that is due to Peter Suschitsky, yes, who goes on to shoot the rest of Cronenberg's films up to this day. So he'll be the DP for the rest of the films.
Really?
Even include up to whatever his most recent
Maps
is
of the Stars
in Cosmopolis. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, and he also shot Rocky Horror Picture Show, Mars Attacks, and I told you I was going to talk about Star Wars. He's the DP on The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, that's how Star Wars ties in.
Uh-huh.
I see. The best of that trilogy.
Yeah, this is definitely a change in direction for Cronenberg in a lot of ways. He changes that black opening. He definitely is straying away from horror here.
Yes.
That he doesn't fully go back to until we get to the last film in this series, Existence, or even Spider, but that's even a bit more psychological.
Yeah, there's like no body. Okay, that's not true. I wouldn't say there's like no body horror, but there's no visual effects except for one, like, dream sequence.
Yeah. There's a few. I mean, at the very end, there's the disembowelment scene.
Yeah, but I mean that's
still effects.
I know it is, but it's not like a cool. Oh, look, Cronenberg's getting really weird with effects. It's just like
right. Fair.
It's anatomy.
Fair. The film opens up with two vignettes. One of them is very young, talking about sex, and the reason why people have sex is because they don't live underwater, and them approaching a girl who freaks out and says, "You don't even know what fuck is."
That way.
Like underwater. That's what
one of the little kid says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we see them in college, and we can already tell that you can't really tell them apart.
Yep.
And they invent this certain gynecological tool,
which I don't know anything about gynecology, but it looks like something that's real.
Yeah, it definitely sets up the scene for the tools that Beverly invents later.
Yeah.
You see once the movie kicks in and we see the fully adult Mantles, you see that Elliot is more outgoing, he's more dominant, and Beverly is a bit more serious and he's more soft-spoken. Yeah. Although they do, when they speak to each other, you really can't tell who's one or the other unless you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah,
if you drop in, you won't.
Small cues, like in terms of like the way they kind of like their speech pattern and the way they dress.
Yes.
But aside from that, there's nothing else.
This film also restores a lot of the sterility that's in earlier Cronenberg films, and that's like kind of ruined by like human ugliness, and that's where the ugliness lies, not in.
I think you meant like visually.
Yeah, visually and in the sets. And it's ruined by the human ugliness rather than like anybody else's horror film, which would take place in a creepy environment or something like that. You never see Cronenberg.
Water or something.
Yeah, you would never see Cronenberg do anything like that. So I guess the setup of what leads to the events of the film is that Elliot and Beverly have this history of kind of switching women. Like Elliot will first seduce them and then pass them off to Beverly, pretending that he's still him.
Yep.
Yeah,
as a means for for Beverly to have like sex in general.
Yes, it seems like Beverly is like just kind of taking what he can get. Yeah, because he's so soft spoken, so focused on his work as well. But for Elliot, it's really kind of revealed that it's very fetishistic for him to share partners with his brother
with his
twin brother. Yes. It's almost just a really strange form of incest.
It absolutely is.
Yeah,
especially like from a later scene that you see that it definitely is. Like when there's that 3-person embrace between the three of them. I think Claire's in that one. Or
no, that's that other lady.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just
because they get him to dance with them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. So it's the she's a redheaded woman. I can't remember what her character's name is. But yeah, like I mean, there's like this weird moment where like all three of like Beverly and the woman are dancing. And then Elliot comes in, and like he also kind of like comes in for like a close dance, but he also has like his hands on his brother's back. It's weird. It's very ancestral.
Yeah,
incestuous.
But there's also like this power dynamic to it, which lends itself to sort of Cronenberg's themes of sexual violence, to where he even refers to him at one point as baby brother. He's very like Elliot is telling Beverly what to do, almost at all times, and the fray in their relationship begins when Beverly starts a serious relationship with a woman that he
with a TV star.
Yeah, with a TV star that was initially a client. That's how they get a lot of their women. They're clients of the
which is
practice.
Already
which is already like really bad.
Yeah,
but she finds out that they had kind of been switching back and forth, and that Elliot, even against Beverly's knowledge, had been coming and pretending that he was Beverly.
Right.
After
the initial switch.
Yes, after the initial switch. And Elliot really just asserts dominance on kind of everybody he comes across. He's very like happy-go-lucky almost in a sense, where he's just like, whatever happens. He doesn't.
It's
It's
like
not
don't make care with him.
when she confronts them about it. He just sort of laughs it off.
Right.
Throws it back at her. But Claire has a lot of self-hatred, which kind of fuels her desire for BDSM.
Yeah.
And
and I think we're missing a big part of it is that she feels a lot of that hatred because she finds out that she's unable of having children.
Yes,
which is why she was at the Mantle's practice in the first place.
Yes, and she's I forgot the name for her, but she's got 3 openings in her cervix instead of 1, which sort of also will lend itself.
What do they call it?
On.
Like 3 chambers or not? I don't know if it's chambers, something with a
something
C,
like that. Yeah,
but yeah, it's like 3 rooms.
Yeah, and that lends itself later to Beverly's paranoia about mutant women.
Yes. Yeah.
So
and a cool art display.
Yes, Beverly, being a very dependent person, a very submissive person, he sort of gets very heavily attached to Claire, adopts her habit of prescription drugs, even worse than she does, and she goes away to film a movie, and he has paranoid delusions about her cheating on him and leaving him.
And it's even that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like that even was just like, I can't think of a better word. There are definitely better words, but the only one that's coming to me is like cringy in a way.
Yeah,
it's like it's really I'm
her doctor. Did you know she's a mutant? Like the way he attacks her
and it's a shame because like you can see that like I think probably the way he's like been all of his life is like very meek, but then on top of that he's also now like hooked on pills. That like all it takes is a phone call and hearing someone on the other line who I don't know if it's confirmed, but I assumed was like a gay character.
Yeah, no,
anyway.
she says like, oh, he's defiantly gay.
Right. Yeah. Like all it takes is just a couple seconds of like rational thinking, like, oh, this is nothing between him and my girlfriend here.
Right.
But he immediately jumps to conclusions, and that's what like sets apart. That's what sets the rest of the movie going.
Right.
Which is it's funny. I mean, like such a small incident ends up making this character spiral down, and therefore everybody else's life spiral.
Breaks this bond between the 2 brothers because they had. It seems like neither of them had ever had another person in their life. You don't see even their parents. You don't see either of them with a serious relationship.
They live with each other.
They share women. They live with each other. Yes, it's always about the 2 of them, and him being broken up about. Claire is her name. Shouts out to Claire Gross in St. Charles, Missouri. This is not you. Thankfully.
Yeah, good thing.
Sort of breaks that bond, and Elliot tries to help. There's almost like this role reversal where Elliot is like very desperately and tenderly trying to take care of his brother, and then like sort of resorts to tough love, and it sends both of them scrambling. Elliot starts abusing drugs as well.
Yeah,
and there's almost a little bit of a role reversal going on.
He feels that like the only way that he could get his brother out of drugs is if they're on the same plane.
Yeah,
like the same level.
Yeah, and he's using uppers, and Beverly is using downers. Yeah. It's
very much about like this weird bond between like twins. Like it's a strange, perhaps I imagine not realistic look at it, but it's through the lens of Cronenberg, where he just makes everything seem a little deranged.
Inspired by very strange real events.
True.
Beverly has nightmares of Claire, like, with her teeth separating a physical bond between them, like an organ that they sort of share.
And that being the one instance of visual effects.
Yes.
By the way.
They talk a lot about like the first ever Siamese twins, and how one died of like a stroke or a heart attack or something like that late in the night, or an organ failure.
Right.
And the other one wakes up in the middle of the night and dies of fright.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like they very much imply like, like that's us. We can't live without each other.
Yeah, they outright say that at one point too.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why won't you just let me go? Why don't you let me die? And then that's when he tells the story.
Yes.
And he's like, that's why.
Mm-hmm. Elliot says we are perceived as one. They've always made that like their identity, their shared identity work in their favor, and they've cultivated this sort of life where they are one.
Right.
And even a lot of the patients say like, "Oh, I haven't seen Elliot. What is he doing?" You don't really see him working in front of the scenes. You know what I mean? They don't really want people to know there's 2 of them, if they can help it. And even there's a line when he's trying to take the pills, and that other girl, who I guess is like sort of Elliot's kind of girlfriend,
Yeah.
sort of like swats them out of his mouth, and he says, "What goes into his body goes through mine."
Yes, into his bloodstream or whatever.
Yeah, what's in his bloodstream is in mine.
Carrie is her name. The character's
Oh,
name.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's in. Wait, click on her real quick. I think I know who that is. Is she in Night of the Living Dead? Do they say that? No.
It's not one of
Okay,
the
no,
top
that's not the
things.
girl from the remake of Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, it would be farther up
Yeah.
than that. She looks like her though, certainly. But yeah, it's very much more of a character study than any other Cronenberg movie.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what threw me off when watching this too. I wasn't expecting it, because I don't know, you didn't hype it up per se, but like, I mean, there is that large poster which should be up on our social media now anyway.
I love that fucking.
It's a great poster,
and I love this. I love this movie so much as a personal film. I don't. I don't see any sort of social implications like I do in a lot of other Cronenberg's films. It is definitely a singular study, but I really, really love it. And it's a genuinely disturbing film, and it's...
But it's such a leap, though. I mean, starting like this, like let's say like this, we're just looking at it from this block, this series that we've done, this episode.
Sure.
We start with Videodrome, then we get like a weird, gun for hire movie. Then we get The Fly, and then there's this, and it's like there are two real strong quote unquote performances by Cronenberg, where he makes really great, awesome visual effects movies. Perhaps one is a lot more, I don't know, absurd and cerebral, whereas another one is a little bit more lighthearted, but still like just as devastating. And then there's this one where it's pretty quiet too. I mean, like it's there's not much commotion in the movies, not much commotion in the set.
Sure.
The costumes are pretty straightforward. The coolest kind of set piece is probably like the operating table where everybody's wearing red and whatnot.
Yeah. Really beautiful aesthetics, honestly, like throughout this film.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's very sterile, like you said before.
Yeah.
So it just, to me, I was like, wow, this is a weird cap to end this episode. Like, we start with such a visually jarring movie, and
thought provoking in like a much wider way,
right,
larger way.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's kind of just why I didn't really connect with this as well, as much as I could have.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So as their relationship starts to break down, Elliot is now kind of using some kind of I wouldn't probably call it heroin, but he's injecting some sort of drug. Beverly, who had been kept in the clinic to try and get clean, breaks out to see Claire, asks for drugs.
Actually, I thought it was heroin, by the way.
Which sort of pushes her away and separates their relationship. Beverly is sort of left with no one but Elliot.
Oh.
And he starts to have these paranoid delusions of mutant women and operating on them, and he decides to design. There we go. There's some more. Those are effects, I guess. Props, interesting props.
Yeah.
These special tools to work on mutant women. He even he has a checkup with somebody and says, "Oh, you're a mutant. I've never felt like this. Did you have sex with a dog, with a golden retriever?"
I would go ahead and say that woman probably everything's kind of like fine down there. It's just that now that he's been with Claire for so long, like that's like the normal to him in a weird way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he uses that tool that they invented, which was used for surgery on a patient who's awake, and
it's hurting her.
Oh, it's hurting her, and he sort of loses his grip on his reality. He gets those props made by an artist because he says that normal companies that would do that wouldn't help him with that.
Right.
And then he tries to take that into an operating room, hurts a patient, and they both get suspended from practice.
Surprisingly, they don't lose their jobs entirely, though. They just literally get suspended, it seems.
Yeah, and they said something along the lines of like, "Oh, well, we always wanted to go into
just research."
Yeah. And Elliot's very upset about it because it's affecting his career. And even Carrie tells him, "Oh, it's just him. You can do this on your own." And that's where he says, "We are perceived as one. What happens to him happens to me." And the rest of the film is just this like dual spiral that ultimately culminates in them together in this disgusting, like trash-ridden apartment. And they kind of are reduced to childlike behavior. They have like a fake birthday together. and then they decide to perform a surgery to break their bond.
Yeah.
Which ultimately ends up with Elliot being disemboweled.
Yep.
And
all his organs removed.
yeah, and the surgery is clearly unsuccessful because they are very bound. The only things that Beverly says for the rest of the film is just this segment where he's very childlike, walking around saying "Ellie, Ellie, Ellie," and it's incredibly heartbreaking.
It is, and specifically because like he's not looking. Like I feel like he saw Elliot, but then like turns around for that fear of like if I do see my dead brother, my dead twin, it will kill me too.
Yeah,
and also just like not knowing what to do.
Yeah,
now that your companion for your whole life is dead.
Yeah. And he cleans himself up. Beverly does with his brother still laying there, and he goes out. He goes to a phone booth. He tries to call Claire. When she answers, he just hangs up, walks away, and he goes back down. And the film ends with him laying down and sort of like holding his brother, his dead brother.
I would assume that he's dead,
and I assume that he would die too. Yeah, almost like the question I ask myself is that at that point, killing his brother is like killing himself.
Right.
And so, is he sort of a soul without a body, or a body without a soul at that point? Is that it's almost like he's a zombie?
Yeah.
He's
just like a shell.
Yeah, he's a shell of like a human because they were so linked.
Right.
So they just couldn't escape it.
But again, like that's just what's so it's so troubling about this movie is that like all of this starts because of like I don't know, a conclusion, jumping to a conclusion.
I guess to a sense they do get their comeuppance because of their abuse of women again. They're using them and using this unfair advantage, together. They even say like, oh, sometimes we go out and I say that I'm Beverly and he says that he's Elliot, things like that. Oh, he goes up and makes the speech and says that he's at work, Beverly, and he's actually Elliot. Yeah, when he was drunken and such. So yeah, it's almost like there's a comeuppance there to it, but it's also incredibly heartbreaking because they are like so trapped in their mutual condition.
In its own way, it is heartbreaking because, like we said, like these characters are pretty not great for the beginning of the movie. We see that they're not great in their interactions with women. But just the same, I mean, we do see their bond, we do see their relationship. And the falling of their relationship is the heartbreaking part. It's not that they're very sympathetic characters or what have you, but their bond is in a way sympathetic too. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd have to like revisit this one day to get a little bit more out of it. You didn't mention one part though.
What?
The artist.
Oh yeah, Stephen Lack.
Yes.
Of Scanners fame.
Yes.
Yes,
love seeing him in this movie.
Yeah, for just a little bit.
Yeah, it was nice.
Mm-hmm. And then that ultimate irony of him putting up those pieces as
as art.
Pieces, yeah, is great. And I think this might be his last role. He might have come back for that because I know he quits acting to become a full-time artist in real life.
Good for him.
Yeah. But yeah, do you have anything else to add?
I'll revisit this one. Out of all the ones from this episode, this is one I'll have to revisit. Right. Not out of like joy, but because I probably need to, I think.
Fair. But okay, that wraps up Cronenberg Part 2.
Hey.
We did it.
Yeah.
2/3 of the way through. That's 8 movies.
We got one more to go.
And we're gonna try our hardest to keep that on track.
We have to, almost.
We have
because
I will
be gone one weekend.
Yes.
I will be at my brother's wedding.
Yes. But our next series of films, do you want to read those off?
If I knew them.
Do you have those?
No, I don't. I mean, I can guess, I guess.
You can guess. We're doing The Godfather and...
no, I mean, like...
We're going to do Naked Lunch,
yes.
Crash, Existenz, and Spider.
I was going to say the last one.
You can say it still.
Spider.
Good. That Ray Fiennes is the star of that movie, so... we
Ralph?
Actually do have... Ralph.
Right.
We have a lot of stars in this next few films. In Naked Lunch, you got Peter Weller, RoboCop, and you've got Roy Schneider, I think, is in it too. Crash has James Spader, Holly Hunter. Existenz is Jude Law.
Jude Law.
You've seen Existenz, haven't you?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, I haven't.
Somebody's seen Existenz. And Spider, like I said, Ray Fiennes. So, yeah.
Why is that name Rafe? Why do people say Rafe? I don't get it. Is that like a...
That's his
Irish?
pronunciation. I don't know. He's something.
Yeah.
But thank you for sitting through this once again. And don't forget to subscribe and to leave us a review wherever you can. Really helps.
They're not going to...
What?
I mean, you don't have to, especially since I don't like it.
Oh my God, we forgot a ranking. We forgot to do an arbitrary ranking.
Yeah.
Thanks for keeping me on my shit, baby.
I shouldn't have. I should have just let it slip.
Oh, damn it. Good. My favorite part. Do it.
You first.
No, you.
Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna start from the bottom again. Least favorite, obviously, I think you can tell. Dead Ringers. Not to say anything about the movie, just didn't really make sense in the scheme of this 4 movies.
Maybe it would have been best if you watched it like outside of this. Like if we never did this,
Right.
and just approached it.
And I
as
just
a
watched it as a movie on a
Yeah,
singular.
we'll come back one day whenever you watch it, and we'll talk about it on the show.
For sure.
Like how your feelings have changed.
After that, the lowest one is like easiest for me to figure out always. And then it's like the next 3. I realized with last episode. I think 3 would be. I almost feel like saying like Dead Zone, like it has to be in a way, because it's just so not Cronenberg-esque.
It's so middle of the road.
Yeah, but I do love the performances in that movie, so that's a tough one. But next, number 2, it's gonna be Videodrome, and then number 1's Fly.
Okay, I'll take it.
We watched it again. I watched it twice.
It's so good.
And it's still my head hurt after watching it.
I'm going to go from lowest to highest. I'm going to go Dead Zone, Fly, Dead Ringers, Videodrome.
Yeah, that makes sense. I figured that.
Did you figure I was going to do that one? Yeah. But, okay, like I was going to say before, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget, we are also on Spotify and YouTube. We'll have some more video content coming soon. We have a lot more coming soon. Hopefully some more bonus episodes.
Once these are done.
Yeah, once these are done, we're back.
Once we're done with these 4 movies per episode, we're going to come back.
Ooh, hard.
Real, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be sick of us.
Yes, we're going to be everywhere.
Yeah. And we are on social media. You can find us on Twitter at @good_suffering. And that's honestly the best place to find us. I guess at this point that's come to be like our main platform, right?
It certainly is.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun on Twitter.
Yeah, yes, go on.
On Instagram, you could find us at Good Suffering Podcast, and we are on Facebook at Good Suffering: a horror podcast. Thank you. And once again, this has been Good Suffering.